The Dr. Ray Podcast is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio. Here's today's monologue with Dr. Ray Guarendi.
One of the things that parents will share with me about the holidays. Now, if you're not one of those, you can just ignore me. But if you are, I want to give you a few thoughts. One of their struggles is, and this is particularly the case with the younger kids, the excessiveness of Christmas gifts. You know, Grandma drives the Toys R Us truck up, parks it there. I'll be back. Got another load. These 18-wheelers don't hold what they used to hold. Mom, please, no more stuffed animals. She has 43 stuffed animals burying her bed. I know, honey, but she doesn't have a zebra stuffed animal. Mom, she has 9 equine stuffed animals. Yes, that's true. But I noticed she doesn't have any stuffed animals in the car. Mom, where are you looking? There was 5 stuffed animals in the front seat. Yes, I know. But those were all in the front seat. This is for the back seat. I didn't notice anything in the back seat. Now, this is not to disparage grandparents, but in their excitement, they do tend to overwhelm, especially the little ones, with gifts. And any relatives actually will do this. And if you are a family of 5 or 6 kids, using up more than your fair share of the rainforest, you will get a lot of gifts coming in. Trinkets, toys, stuff. And you might be getting a little uneasy with this, especially if you see your kid going into a ripping frenzy like a shark, you know, barely lingering long enough to even enjoy the gift because there's another one waiting. He's got to get into that pile, you know. If he starts now, he might be done by January 3rd. You're thinking to yourself, what do I do about this? If I try to tell the relatives, please cut back, they resist. They resist because they have other grandchildren or they have other nieces and nephews or they have other godchildren who are going to get more, and that's going to become obvious that your kid didn't get as much, and therefore your child's going to think they're not as loved, etc., etc. Now, if you have cooperative relatives, some of them might say, yeah, this is great. I'm looking for ways to cut back at Christmas time, and thank you. Now, my experience is that's not the majority, but there are those. What if you don't have one of those? Do you take the gifts away after Christmas? Day after Christmas? You tell the kids, okay, which ones do you want? You could do that. I mean, we did some of that. We asked the kids to pick a couple gifts, and we're going to bring the rest to Children's Hospital or some appropriate charitable organization for kids. We did that because we had certain relatives who weren't going to back off no matter what. No matter what. Their view was, we are going to do this. You're not going to rob your kids of the joy of Christmas, which is interesting, isn't it? The joy of Christmas is gifts, I guess. I always used to say, it's not your birthday. What do? Well, here's an easy way to deal with it. Go through their stuff now. Sort through the stuffed animals, sort through the toys, the trinkets, the perks, the goodies. Getting rid of a significant proportion of it. Now, some of it's going to be easy to get rid of because it hasn't been touched for 2 years. But then they'll say, no, I like that. No, I know I haven't played with it, but I was thinking about playing with it tomorrow. Watch out for that one. Sort through it. Some of it's broken. Some of it's missing pieces. All right, get rid of that. Thin it down. Get down to 50% of it. Dr. Ray, 50%? That's not thinning. That's gouging. Well, if she's got 19 stuffed animals on her bed, and 50% is roughly 9, not exactly, she still has 9 left. It's 9 stuffed animals. I mean, that's not exactly deprivation, is it? But Dr. Ray, why? Well, I'll tell you why. One of the things that many adults, especially small business people, complain about is that the young adults expect. They expect stuff. They expect to have the latest and the greatest and the best. And how did that happen? Well, one of it is we live in a culture with absolute plenty. Nothing materially like this in the history of the world. But part of it, too, is that they grew up as kids, just getting. You get your hair cut, you get a rubber spider, you know your catechism verses, you get 3 bags of candy and a sticker book. You get stuff. What if you thinned it out? What if you offered to the children and you said, okay, we're gonna pick out gifts that we're gonna share with children who don't have as much or who have nobody visiting them in the hospital. We had situations like that where we had a son who had to have multiple surgeries, and the nurses told us there were kids in those beds that nobody came. Nobody came for Christmas. Just the nurses, and maybe a doctor visit to visit those kids. Yeah, a lot of them, actually. A lot of them. So, what was Christmas to them? You can do that. So, several steps. 1, maybe the relatives will cut back. 2, go over the gifts later and see which ones can be shared. Sometimes we did that with even unopened gifts. That really added to the mystery, didn't it? You didn't know what you were giving to somebody. I had one of my kids was x-raying them, trying to figure out what was in there. Or 3, the easiest one is pre-Christmas thinning. Go through the stuff that you can just get rid of so they don't have quite so much as it pours in on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
More of Dr. Ray's Manologues can be found on his website, drray.com. Manologues as well as full-length programs of The Doctor Is In can be heard at AveMariaRadio.net and EWTN.com/radio.